I'm Katie Powers. I'm a judge down here in Clayton County. I'm excited to read to you Around America to Win the Vote. On April the 6th, 1916, a little yellow car set out from New York City. It carried tools, spare parts, a teeny tiny typewriter, an itsy bitsy sewing machine, one stout leather trunk, bursting with useful things, 2 smiling women, and a wee black kitten with a yellow ribbon tied around its neck. The taller woman was Nell Richardson. The smaller one was Alice Burke. Together, they planned to drive all the way around America. It was a great big country, but they had a great big cause. Votes for women, Alice told reporters. Votes for women, Nell agreed. They said the typewriter and the sewing machine were all part of their plan. If anyone said women didn't have the brains to vote, then Nell would dash a poem right off then and there to prove that they did. If anyone said they should cook and sew and leave running the nation to the men, then Nell would whip an apron up while Alice gave a speech to prove they could do both. And if the two of them could circle the United States, 10,000 bumpy, muddy, unmapped miles, facing danger and adventure all alone, with just each other and a kitten in their yellow little car, well, that would prove that women could do anything. So off they went. That very day, they had their first adventure when a horse pulling a wagon down a narrow road refused to let them pass. Votes for women, Alice told the horse. Nell tied a Votes for Women yellow daffodil behind his ear. Then the horse stepped aside and let the little yellow car go on its way. In Philadelphia, they stood up on their seats to speak to the great city crowd. Nell didn't need to write a poem on her typewriter or sew an apron on her sewing machine. Men and women cheered, but the next morning, blizzard. Nell and Alice dug into the trunk of their useful things. They put on their raincoats and their rubber hats and drove through howling wind and swirling snow to Baltimore. Where they arrived in time to be the guests of honor at a very fancy party. The trunk held a few useful things for parties, too. The next day, when they stopped for gas, a crowd of men clustered around that little yellow car. Alice hopped on the seat to give her speech, but no one listened, so she told them all about the car instead. Votes for women, the man said, and waved as Nell and Alice drove away. After a quick visit to Washington, D.C., they came up upon the bumpiest and muddiest road yet. The little yellow car went bump and squelch and finally got stuck. As the car sank, Nell and Alice jumped into the icy stream. They cranked and cranked and cranked the engine, but it wouldn't start. Votes for women, Nell reminded Alice cheeringly. Alice grumbled, and good roads. In the trunk, they found a lantern and a blanket and a box of candy from their friends. They huddled, wet and shivering under the blanket, and ate candy till the sun came up and the 2 strong mules appeared to pull their car out of the mud. In Virginia, Nell and Alice passed a school, and all the children ran to see the yellow little car. They hung all over it and wouldn't let the women or the kitten go till Alice promised to send them a picture postcard from somewhere extremely far away. They drove into North Carolina, passing fields of singing birds and butterflies and goldenrod. and nearly fell into a hole where a bridge used to be. Next came deep puddles, sticky clay, and thick, wet sand. In South Carolina, a whole town turned out and treated them to an all-yellow lunch. In Georgia, they joined a circus parade. In Alabama, the two travelers sipped tea and nibbled on stuffed dates. Everywhere they met crowds, everywhere, Nell and Alice told them, "Votes for women." Outside Gulfport, Mississippi, the little yellow car finally found a mud puddle it couldn't cross. So what did they do? They sneaked that kitten onto the train. And smuggled it into a fine hotel in New Orleans. Then the little yellow car arrived and they were on their way. They dodged bullets by the Rio Grande, drove on through the deserts of New Mexico, got lost for days in Arizona, till they finally reached California, where they won a medal at the fair for driving a long way to get there, all across America. But they were only halfway to the finish line. They still had lots of miles and lots of adventures on the roads ahead. See? Still have lots of adventures to go. On September 30th, 1916, a little yellow car drove into New York City. It carried mud and dust and signatures and souvenirs from all around America. Two smiling and sunburned women and a full-grown cat. They arrived to a grand welcome. And a great big yellow cake. The cat ate 7 slices, as reported in the next morning's Tribune. After 10,000 bumpy, muddy, unmapped miles, Nell was ready for a rest, and Alice, she turned right around and crossed the country all over again. This time she took the train. All right. Thank you guys. That was Around America to Win the Vote. Hope you enjoyed it.